a lot of the folks in the room are doing, we need one another. And we need inspiration together. We need this community. The work is hard, and there are plenty of people outside of this room that oppose this work. And so thank you for being a light. So a final question is this. You know, we are obviously the second state. We are working on this reparations question in our state. What advice do you give to us in terms of what our plans could look like based on what you have seen as successful or viable reparations options?
So of course there has been no successful statewide or national receipt of reparations yet, but this is the work that we're doing. And actually if you think about even 10 years ago, this moment would be unimaginable. Even 10 years ago, the fact that you would have a state commission to take seriously the study of reparations, and of course what we're pushing for is not the study the way they typically do around issues of racial injustice, which is you create a fancy report that sits on a shelf somewhere, but a study that actually leads to action. We are in a historic moment. Reparations is being taken more seriously than it has in my lifetime. So I think this is a time for us to dream, right? To not think so small. The debt can never be repaid. We know this. There is no amount of money that can repay what our ancestors have endured and what we still collectively endure. But we can find, right, a calculus that relieves the suffering. And so what I love about California, about the San Francisco reparations bill, the ask is not small. So there's going to have to be negotiation, of course. What you ask for may not be what you ultimately get. But I think we should not sell our justice claim short by asking for too little. So if I can give advice, we seek what we deserve, and then we negotiate the terms of what we think we can actually receive. So you have to have that dreaming stage, and then of course, what is practical? I personally think any reparations plan that does not come with individual cash payments is not a reparations plan. I just don't. I don't think that's enough, right? I think you also have to have targeted investment in Black neighborhoods that have been redlined by the federal government. You have to have targeted investment in Black schools, Black institutions. Even a place like this, right? A Black serving institution, if it's anything like we know about HBCUs, it's never received the funding that it should receive for the students that it serves, right? So I think it has to be multi-pronged. There has to be individual cash payments. How that looks, I don't think it's up to me to say how it should look in any given community. We have a reparations commission that passed, the bill passed out of the legislature in New York. So that's where I should weigh in on what is deserving of a place like New York. I think it's up to you all to determine what it should look like here. But what I would just say again is to reinforce, don't ask for too little. Think about, even though Illinois wasn't a slave state, it did allow slavery. It did allow, of course, the exclusion of Black people, the economic exclusion, the economic exploitation, and most of us are descendants of slavery anyway, whether we came from slavery. So we need strong enforcement of existing civil rights law, because of course the big problem is when we receive our money, we still go out into an unfair market that will charge us more for loans on housing, that will, still prey upon us. So we have to have strong enforcement. We have to have individual payments, and then we also need to get the investment in our Black institutions that we haven't received. Because one thing I think that should be clear when we make our arguments. One, reparations is not about individual white people paying something to individual Black people. Though if you want to, I'll give you my cash app. That's not what it's about. This is not about a debt that white people owe Black people. This is about a debt that the government owes to Black people. This is not about trying to make individual white people feel guilty for something you had nothing to do with. But what it is saying is that if you claim the great things about this nation, you have to claim its debts as well. You don't get to choose. you believe that Constitution applies to you? You didn't have to engage in slavery. The debt from slavery applies to you as well. This is a collective debt. It is the debt of a society where if we want to be the society we pretend we are, then we have to own up to what we've done and make it right. That's the only way to create the society. We can be a great nation. We're not yet. And we will never be until we own up to the crime and we make restitution for the crime. So this is what we